You're sitting there, watching your savings account inch upward month after month. Maybe you've got $15,000 saved, maybe $40,000. Maybe you've crossed six figures and you're sitting at $120,000. And honestly, you're proud of that number. You should be. But here's what nobody really tells you when you're in that phase. It feels slow, like painfully slow. You're putting away $500 here, $1,000 there, watching your net worth climb by these tiny increments that barely feel meaningful when you zoom out and think about your bigger financial goals. And sometimes, late at night when you're scrolling through your banking app or checking your investment account, you think to yourself, at this rate, when am I actually going to feel wealthy? When does this thing actually start working for me instead of me working for it? My name is Oliver, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, compound growth, and why some people seem to hit this invisible inflection point where their wealth just takes off, while others grind away for years without ever feeling like they're making real progress. And what I've learned, both from studying the math and watching it happen in real life, is that there's this magical number, around $250,000, where everything changes. Not gradually, not subtly, but dramatically. Your net worth doesn't just grow after that point, it explodes. Now, I know what you're thinking. $250,000? Oliver, I'm nowhere near that. Why should I care about some threshold I might not hit for another decade? And that's exactly why you should care. Because understanding what happens at that milestone completely changes how you think about the money you're saving right now. It changes your relationship with time, with patience, with those months where it feels like nothing's happening. Once you really understand the mechanics of what's going on behind the scenes, the whole journey starts to make sense. You stop feeling discouraged. You start feeling like you're building something real. So that's what we're going to talk about today. The math, yeah, but also the psychology, the invisible forces, the reason why wealth building feels like pushing a boulder uphill for years until suddenly you're not pushing anymore. You're holding on for dear life as it rolls downhill, picking up speed, growing faster than you can even track. Let's get into it. Here's something Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's longtime business partner, once said. And I'm paraphrasing here, but the essence was, the first $100,000 is a bitch. Except he didn't say bitch, he said something a bit more colorful, but you get the idea. And he's right. That first $100,000 is absurdly, frustratingly, almost insultingly difficult to accumulate. Think about it. Let's say you're saving aggressively. You're putting away $1,500 a month. That's $18,000 a year, which is honestly more than most people can manage. At that rate, it takes you about 5.5 years just to hit $100,000, and that's assuming you're getting some investment returns along the way. 5.5 years of discipline, sacrifice, saying no to things, living below your means. And during those 5.5 years, your net worth grows in these maddeningly small increments. You check your accounts and you've gone from $43,000 to $47,000 in 3 months. Cool, great, but it doesn't feel transformative. It doesn't feel like wealth. The reason the first $100,000 is so hard isn't just psychological, though. It's mathematical. When you have $10,000 invested and the market goes up 10% in a year, you make $1,000. That's it. $1,000. You probably saved more than that through your own contributions. The market's help feels negligible. But here's where it gets interesting. Once you hit $100,000 and the market goes up 10%, you make $10,000. You just made, passively through no additional effort, the equivalent of what it took you years to save when you were starting out. And that's when you start to feel it. That's when the machine starts humming. At $250,000, that same 10% return is $25,000 in 1 year, while you sleep, while you're at work, while you're on vacation. You see what's happening here? The game completely changes. You're not just building wealth through your labor anymore. Your money is working for you, and it's working harder than you ever could. Okay, so let's talk about compound interest for a second. I know, you've heard about compound interest a million times. Einstein allegedly called it the eighth wonder of the world. There's that famous quote, Everyone acts like it's this revolutionary concept. But here's the thing. Most people don't actually understand compound interest. Not really. They understand it intellectually. Oh yeah, interest on interest, exponential growth, I get it. But they don't feel it. They don't see how it plays out in real time. Because compound interest is weird. It's backloaded. For years, it barely does anything. You're accumulating, and yeah, technically your money is compounding, but the effects are so small they're almost imperceptible. You're in what I call the linear phase, where your growth is mostly driven by your contributions, not your returns. But then, slowly, almost sneakily, something shifts. Your returns start to matter more. Then they start to matter a lot. Then they start to dwarf your contributions entirely. Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say you start investing $1,000 a month at age 25, and you get an average annual return of 8%, which is conservative for long-term stock market returns. By the time you're 35, you'll have put in $120,000 of your own money, and your account might be worth around $180,000. So you've made $60,000 in returns. Not bad. But you still contributed 3 times more than the market gave you. Fast forward to age 45, you've now contributed $240,000 total, but your account isn't worth $360,000. It's worth over $550,000. The market has given you over $1 million. Your contributions are now the smaller part of the equation. This is the hockey stick, and it's basically invisible until you're well into it. So why $250,000 specifically? Why not $200,000 or $300,000? Honestly, the number itself is a bit arbitrary. You could make a case for any point in that range. But $250,000 is where a lot of people start to really feel the acceleration. It's where the math becomes emotionally real. At $250,000, assuming a 10% average annual return, which again is roughly in line with historical stock market performance, you're making $25,000 a year in returns. For a lot of people, that's close to half their annual salary. It's real money. It's not, oh cool, I made $2,000 this year money. It's, I made as much from my investments as I did from my part-time job money. And here's what's beautiful about it. That $25,000 gets reinvested. So next year, you're not earning returns on $250,000. You're earning returns on $275,000, plus whatever else you contributed. The year after that, it's even higher. The snowball isn't just rolling, it's accumulating more snow with every rotation, getting bigger, heavier, faster. By the time you hit $500,000, you're making $50,000 a year in average returns. That's a salary, a real, full-time, middle-class salary, except you didn't work for it. You just had $500,000 invested. At $1 million, you're making $100,000 a year. That's 6 figures, passively. You see how this escalates? The first $100,000 might take you 6 years. The second $100,000 might take 3. The third might take 2. By the time you're adding your 10th $100,000, it might be happening in 6 months. It's the same effort from you, but the returns are accelerating exponentially. Here's something I don't think people talk about enough. The psychological transformation that happens when your investments start earning more than you contribute. Because for years, you're the engine. You're the one making things happen. Every dollar in your account is there because you put it there. You sacrificed for it. You chose to save instead of spend. Your wealth is a direct reflection of your discipline and effort. And then, gradually, that stops being true. Your investments start pulling their weight. Then they start pulling more than their weight. Then they're basically doing all the heavy lifting and you're just along for the ride. This is a weird feeling. It's exciting, obviously, but it's also disorienting. You check your account and it's up $8,000 this month and you only contributed $1,500. Where did that other $6,500 come from? The market. It just gave it to you for owning assets, for being patient, for doing nothing. And this is where a lot of people start to really understand wealth. Wealth isn't about working harder. It's not about grinding. It's about owning things that grow in value. It's about putting yourself in a position where time and compound growth do the work for you. At $250,000, you're crossing into this psychological territory. You're no longer just a saver, you're an investor. Your money has enough mass to generate its own gravity. Okay, let's talk about time for a second, because time is the variable that most people underestimate when they think about wealth building. You've probably heard the advice, start investing early. And yeah, everyone knows that intellectually. But I don't think people really appreciate how dramatic the difference is. Let's say person A starts investing $500 a month at age 25 and stops at age 35. They invest for 10 years, contributing a total of $60,000, and then they just let it sit. Person B starts investing $500 a month at age 35 and continues until age 65. They invest for 30 years, contributing a total of $180,000. Who do you think has more money at age 65? At an 8% return, person A, who only invested for 10 years, ends up with about $670,000. Person B, who invested for 30 years, ends up with about $745,000. Person B contributed 3 times more money, 3 times, and they only end up with about 10% more wealth. That's how powerful starting early is. That's how much time matters. Because person A gave their money 35 years to compound. Person B only gave their money 30 years. That extra 5 years at the beginning, when compound interest has the most time to work, is worth more than 20 years of contributions later. This is why the journey to $250,000 is so critical. You're not just building wealth, you're buying time. You're giving compound interest room to work its magic. Every year you wait is a year you lose, not just from the opportunity to contribute, but from the opportunity to compound. Here's the thing that really gets me, though. Most people never make it to $250,000. Not because they can't, but because they give up too early. They save for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. They watch their net worth grow slowly. They see their friends buying new cars, going on expensive vacations, upgrading their lifestyles. And they think, what's the point? I'm sacrificing all this stuff and I'm barely making progress. So they stop, they loosen up, they start spending more, and they never get to the part where it pays off. It's like running a marathon and quitting at mile 20 because you're tired. You're so close, the finish line is right there, but you can't see it yet, so you stop. This is the brutal irony of wealth building. The part where you need to be most disciplined, the early years when progress feels slowest, is the part where most people give up. And the part where wealth building becomes easy and automatic, the later years when compound interest takes over, is the part they never get to experience. I think about this a lot. How many people are sitting at $50,000 or $80,000 or $120,000 right now, feeling frustrated, feeling like they're not making progress, completely unaware that they're actually in the most critical phase of the whole journey? If you're in that phase right now, if you're grinding, if you're being disciplined, if you're watching your net worth climb slowly and wondering if it's worth it, please, please, please keep going. You're closer than you think. The exponential part is coming. You just can't see it yet. All right, so let's get practical for a minute. How do you actually get to $250,000? First, you need to save aggressively. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. You need to save a significant percentage of your income, 20%, 30%, even 40% if you can manage it. I know that sounds like a lot. For many people, it is a lot. But this is the price of admission. You can't build wealth without saving. Second, you need to invest that money. Savings accounts are great for your emergency fund, but they're not going to get you to $250,000. You need growth. That means stocks, index funds, ETFs, assets that have historically returned 8 to 10% annually over long periods. Third, you need to increase your income. Saving is important, but there's a limit to how much you can cut expenses. There's no limit to how much you can earn. Ask for raises, switch jobs, start a side business, learn skills that pay more. Every extra $10,000 you earn is potentially $8,000 you can invest, assuming you keep lifestyle inflation in check. Fourth, and this is huge, avoid lifestyle inflation. When you get a raise, don't immediately upgrade your life. Invest the difference. When you pay off a debt, don't redirect that money to a new expense. Invest it. Every time you have an opportunity to increase your savings rate, take it. Fifth, be patient. I can't stress this enough. Wealth building is a long game. It's a decade-long game at minimum. You need to be comfortable with delayed gratification. You need to be okay with things feeling slow for a while. If you do these things, if you save aggressively, invest wisely, increase your income, avoid lifestyle inflation, and stay patient, you will get to $250,000. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Look, I get it. If you're sitting at $30,000 or $75,000 or even $150,000 right now, $250,000 can feel impossibly far away. It can feel like you're never going to get there. And the idea that your net worth will explode after that point, it might sound like fantasy. But here's what I want you to understand. The math doesn't lie. Compound interest is real. Exponential growth is real. The acceleration is real. Every single person who has built significant wealth has gone through this exact same journey. They felt the frustration of slow progress. They've questioned whether it was worth it. They've been tempted to give up. But they didn't give up. They kept saving. They kept investing. They kept being patient. And eventually, inevitably, they reached the inflection point where their wealth started growing faster than they ever thought possible. You can do this too. You really can. It doesn't require genius. It doesn't require perfect timing or lucky breaks. It just requires consistency, discipline, and time. Every month that you contribute to your investments, you're not just adding money, you're compressing the timeline. You're building momentum. You're setting up your future self for exponential growth. The first $100,000 is brutal. The first $250,000 is a grind. But after that, it's a different game entirely. Your money starts working as hard as you do. Then it starts working harder. Then it's working so hard you can barely keep up. That's the explosion. That's the moment when everything changes, and it's closer than you think. So keep going, keep saving, keep investing, stay patient, trust the process, because the exponential phase is coming, and when it arrives, you're going to look back at this moment right now, when you're in the trenches, when progress feels slow, and you're going to realize it was all worth it. The compound interest hockey stick is real, the explosion is real, and you're going to experience it firsthand. You've got this.